Next, we see Yuri is worried about Cassian while she in her flight. Meanwhile, Black Hand approaches Cassian as his next opponent. However, this time he is not alone. Black Hand, along with two of his sidekicks, gang up on Cassian. In the meantime, Driver is seen deciding on a name for Cassian. Out of nowhere, Yuak also joins the fight, and it is now a 1 versus 4 battle. It appeared at first that the gang had the upper hand, but just then, Cassian counterattacked and prepared himself to show what he's really made of. More and more villains start to appear in order to defeat Cassian. Facing them all at once proved to be a struggle even for him. A villain named Hammer fired nails at him at high speed. As he countered everyone's attacks, a villain named Binder caught Cassian in her web. Cassian was unable to escape and took a critical hit from Juak. Everyone ganged up on him, and he was getting obliterated by the constant attacks. Just then, remembering his past life, Cassian awakened something inside him. One of his eyes turned blue and the other turned yellow. Everyone was shocked. In the rage of getting revenge, Cassian powered up, and it appeared he lost his consciousness. The villains were shocked by this increase in power. In one attack, Cassian pushed away every villain surrounding him. Driver and his crew arrived at the place. He was shocked to see that Cassian's magic points were beyond 2,000. Red Eye claimed this is enough to bring about the apocalypse. In fear of losing control, Moros shouted to bring back Cassian to his consciousness. As he regained his senses, his rage was controlled and his power was reduced by half. The villains were too scared to fight Cassian now. Driver then approached Cassian and claimed he had now passed the test, and he is one of them. Cassian passes out in the hands of Driver with a smile. At the Philadelphia airport, a guy named Sean picks up Yuri. She is always shown worrying about Cassian. Meanwhile, in a flashback, Cassian is seen talking to Jeff at their orphanage. Jeff tells him to always do the right things in life. Cassian wakes up and sees Driver in front of him. They go to the Heaven pub, where Driver claims Cassian is the new boss of the Ville Zone. Cassian claims that no one would acknowledge him as the boss, to which Driver told him he will be helping him in it. Driver asks Cassian for his villain's name. He then loudly claimed that since the Psyker, Cassian Lee, is no more, his name will continue ahead as a villain's name. He claimed his villain's name will be Cassian. Cassian and Moros are seen discussing the next steps. Cassian claims he needs to train hard in order to get his revenge, and the Ville Zone is the best place to train and gather trusted comrades. Moros reminds Cassian about his mission to find the Sword of Annihilation Jeff was looking for. News spreads about Cassian becoming the new Ville Zone boss, and it reaches Nayun. Next, we see Cassian coming out from a training session, claiming his body became stronger after he went berserk. Driver approaches him and says an emergency meeting was held. The prisoner villains from the last fight escaped. Driver claimed they have now gone to a dangerous side. It is then shown in the northern Ville Zone, the boss named Barracuda is desperate to take down Gatham Ville Zone and Driver. In the meeting, Driver explains there are 4 Ville Zones, and that Gatham Ville Zone is not on good terms with the northern Ville Zone. He claims that the northern Ville Zone boss, Barracuda, who is an S-rank villain, keeps planning to strike the Gatham Zone. Despite many warnings by him, Driver also claims that he is nothing without his tools, and that his claw has a true magic stone to power it. Cassian leaves in the middle of the meeting, claiming he has to study for his midterms. On the other hand, Uchan is seen meeting an old friend. He is a psyker trainee named Jiho. Uchan claims he wants to become a top-class psyker in order to get his revenge. However, somewhere in the northern Ville Zone, Barracuda is seen freeing a dangerous villain, and his plans are to wreak havoc in the city. Next, we see Nayun meeting with her friend Minyeong. They head toward the bookstore as Nayun wanted to buy something. She claimed she wanted to get his brother the cookbook he always wanted. Just as she was about to grab it, Cassian picked it up first. He recognized Nayun and gave her that book. It was the last one in stock. Meanwhile, a strange person approached a group of friends. He claimed he had a present for them. Suddenly, he slammed the present on the person's head and he became controlled by it. Like a walking zombie, the man is revealed to be an A-rank villain, Toymaker, released by Barracuda. Nayun gives Uchan the book as a gift. Just then, the ground rumbles and there was sudden chaos. The human zombies controlled by Toymaker now attacked the civilians. The news of the attack reached Driver. He is surprised to see this villain as he defeated him 3 years ago. Meanwhile, the Toymaker's zombies attacked by throwing dummy toys. Cassian protected Nayun and Minyeong. Uchan was about to attack the zombies, however. Cassian stopped him as to not hurt any civilians. Uchan is surprised as to how Cassian knows the Psyker rules. Then, Jiho used a technique called Restore to bring back the humans to their normal state. Meanwhile, Driver approached the toymaker. They now prepare to fight. Driver destroyed him with one attack, but it turns out that was just a dummy. Barracuda and his villains are seen watching the news and enjoying the chaos. Each of them picks a villain to go against from the Gadamville zone and claims that they will soon rule over it. Meanwhile, Uchan and Jiho turn back the zombies one by one. Cassian wanted to help, however. It is difficult for him to escape and turn into his villain form. Suddenly, the toymaker leaped toward Nayun to attack. Cassian protects her again. Uchan fires his flare at him, but the toymaker counterattacks. Just then, someone threw their phone at the toymaker to distract him, and because of it, Uchan successfully landed a devastating blow. Nayun was the one who threw the phone. Cassian felt something weird about her and claims she will soon awaken her abilities. However, it turns out that was also just a dummy of the toymaker. He now prepares to fight seriously. Meanwhile, at the Lampus Head branch, an A-rank psyker along with Daewon get in a car to reach the fight area. Daewon is overly concerned for Uchan. Meanwhile, the toymaker gained an upper hand on Uchan and the team. He grabbed Uchan by the throat. Just when Uchan thought it was over, a black shadow slicer freed him. He was then successfully able to strike the toymaker and defeat him. Driver witnessed everything from above. Next, we see the A-rank psyker, Ham, giving an interview to the press. She commends Uchan for his efforts to save the civilians. Meanwhile, Daewon congratulates Uchan on becoming a full-fledged psyker, thereby increasing the possibility of shortening his apprentice period. Uchan is angered by how Cassian helps him all the time. Later on, Driver and his associates discover that Northernville Zone aims to take control of the district. Driver boasts about an invincible secret weapon and asks about its location, only to find out that the person holding it is currently taking a midterm exam. In a separate scene, Cassian and Moros stand atop a building, and Cassian speaks to his sister, Yuri, on the phone. Yuri expresses concerns about the recent incident in Gadam district, and Cassian lies about his whereabouts. Just then, Uchan approaches Cassian, leaving Yuri worried about her brother's midterm exams. Later, Yuri meets with Vincent, the general manager, who apologizes for summoning her abruptly. At the school, Cassian meets Uchan, who expresses gratitude for his help during the recent incident. Uchan is impressed by Cassian's calm and decisive actions, encouraging him to continue developing his soccer abilities. Uchan gives Cassian a gift from Naeun, showing appreciation. Later, Driver and his associates plan to defend against rivals from Northernville Zone. Cassian intervenes, suspecting the troublemakers from the chaotic market are involved. He meets Yu Chang to purchase magical stones, negotiating a discounted price for 4 stones and an additional one for free. Cassian's substantial bank transfer surprises Yu Chang. Meanwhile, Nayun and Min Young discuss the person who saved them during the incident, unaware that Cassian is the mysterious savior, creating tension when Nayun realizes Cassian's identity and conceals her reaction from Min Young. Nayun goes to the washroom. Unknown to her, a mysterious villain followed her. She realized someone was behind her and she saw Cassian. It is then shown that Cassian kidnaps Nayun and took her with him. Next, at the Gadamville Zone, traps and barricades were set to defend from the Northernville Zone. Blackhand saw Uchan rushing toward the Ville Zone. Uchan triggered a trap on his way. Meanwhile, Cassian consumes the magic stones. His skills upgrade and his magic points reach 860. He managed to merge to skills instantly, which surprised Moros. Just then, Driver approached him saying Uchan had come to meet him. In a surprising revelation, Cassian is proven innocent of Nayun's kidnapping, with the true culprit being the shapeshifter named Black Ghost, who serves Barracuda. Barracuda aims to lock Nayun in prison, leveraging the incident to provoke Gadam's enemies into attacking. Cassian and Driver try to convince a captive Uchan that Cassian is not responsible for his sister's abduction, and they find incriminating drone footage pointing to Black Ghost's involvement. Determined to confront Northernville Zone's own and deal with Black Ghost, Cassian, alongside allies Blackhand, Crusher, and Iron Man, hatches a plan. But before they act, they must handle a situation involving Uchan's presence in a presidential suite, where a woman accepts an enigmatic job offer. Finally, Cassian and his group reach the Northernville Zone, knowing there's no turning back. They assign roles for the mission to rescue hostages and dismantle the leadership. Uchan is disguised as Red Mask. Cassian explains their strategic roles, with Driver at the front, Surge covering Cassian's back, and Red Mask securing the rear. Black Hand protests and demands a full-on attack, but Cassian calmly justifies their approach. Eventually, Black Hand agrees to follow Cassian's plan. Meanwhile, Uchan frets for his sister's safety, recalling their shared past. Nyan regains consciousness in an unfamiliar place, realizing someone else kidnapped her. A discussion among Black Hand, Crusher, and Iron Man reveals their surprise upon learning of Cassian's potential psyker abilities. Their conversation is interrupted by Juak and Pointer's voices, questioning their presence and suggesting surrender. The unexpected arrival of Rockhand further escalates the situation. Rockhand questions Backhand's motives, while Duak suspects they might surrender. Backhand, angered, declares their intent to take over the Vil Zone. Iron Man's intervention fails as Rockhand challenges them to prove their strength against his rock-hard exterior. Blackhand boldly claims his steel fists are mightier than rocks. Meanwhile, Barracuda dreams of Driver, warning against merging Vil Zones to become more potent than Psychers. Ignoring the warning, Barracuda wants freedom, leading to an argument. Lens Girl reports 3 B-ranked bastards from G-Dam on the outskirts, including Rockhand. Barracuda claims knowledge of Driver's tricks and confidence to defeat them all, even Driver. Cassian arrives, receiving a sub-miniature drone from Driver to check the building's occupants. Smoker confirms Crow and Driver's presence, but Crow encourages Cassian to proceed. They find themselves in a dangerous building filled with villains. As the battle starts, Charttooth boasts arrogantly but is swiftly defeated by Cassian. Impressed, Driver splits the group, sending Uchan with a drone to find his sister while they go after Barracuda. Driver stays back to hold off villains as Cassian moves ahead. Meanwhile, Smoker fights Crow, who evades her attacks effortlessly. Smoker warns Crow to take the fight seriously. Crow counters, but Smoker surprises her with a powerful attack. Unfazed, Crow reveals an awakened state, impressing Smoker. Crow then informs Smoker of her judgment by the way of the Crow. In the next scene, tension builds as Red Mask encounters Ice Demon on the second floor of the building. Ice Demon recognizes Red Mask and taunts him, provoking a fight. Known for his quick anger, Red Mask eagerly prepares to face Ice Demon. Meanwhile, Cassian reaches the 12th floor and encounters Black Ghost, a masked man who seems to know him well. Black Ghost praises Cassian's recent battles against other villains and even expresses admiration for his skills. However, he quickly draws his weapons and challenges Cassian to a fight, summoning shadowy forms to attack him. Cassian remains unfazed, swiftly defeating the shadow opponents with ease. Back in the basement, Red Mask and Ice Demon continue to fight. Ice Demon reveals his sadistic pleasure in freezing people and making them beg for their lives, unintentionally exposing Red Mask as a psyker. Red Mask fiercely defends himself, claiming to be one of the toughest villains of Gatham. In the intense fight, Red Mask recalls Cassian's advice to strike quickly, catching Ice Demon off guard. Ice Demon gains control over Red Mask, freezing his arms, leaving him helpless. Meanwhile, Nayun, held captive in a cage, overhears a voice outside and calls for help. Upon hearing his sister's plea, Red Mask breaks free from the ice shackles and vows to avenge the villains who harmed his loved ones. Cassian approached Barracuda carrying the defeated Black Ghost in his hands. Barracuda questions Black Ghost's loyalty and usefulness, revealing that Driver informed him of Cassian's impressive skills. Despite facing Barracuda, Cassian remains calm and focused, ready for any challenge. Barracuda attacks Cassian, unleashing his fangs and landing blows, including his powerful weapon, the Barracuda fangs powered by the True Stone. As Cassian struggles to evade the attacks, Barracuda taunts him about his lack of experience and ambition to become the boss of Gadamville Zone. He compares Cassian to Driver, believing the latter is no match for him. Barracuda reveals his strategy for defeating Cassian but remains undeterred, determined to prove his worth as a skilled fighter. To Barracuda's surprise, Cassian proceeds to defend himself and uses his newly found combustion skills. As soon as Barracuda hears about the combustion skills, he thinks it is a new skill destined to lose. However, he does not stop humiliating Cassian and defends himself from the attacks. His attacks easily fail while Cassian hits him hard. Cassian wants to kill Barracuda to end the fight, enraging his opponent. In the next scene, when Barracuda attacks Cassian with full force, Cassian easily dodges it and manages to chop off both of his opponent's hands. He also tells Barracuda that he shouldn't have been greedy to step outside his vil zone. Holding himself to his knees, Barracuda still threatens Cassian, telling him he will attack him again and defeat him. Another villain named Lens Girl appears out of nowhere and approaches Barracuda to help him. She seems to work under Barracuda, and when her boss asks for help, she uses her magic to open a portal and takes him away. Cassian is surprised, but does nothing to stop them. After they leave, he asks Moros if they should follow and attack Barracuda. Moros replies to stay back for the time being. Next, Driver, along with Lens Girl, approaches Cassian and asks him about his fight. Cassian tells him that he battled Barracuda and let him escape. Hearing this, Driver gets surprised and inquires about the new opponent who saved Barracuda. On the other hand, Cassian asks about Kim, aka Red Mask, and Naeun. Driver informs him that they are safe and on their way out of the building following the fight with Barracuda and Lens Girl's appearance. Driver suggests to Cassian and Lens Girl that they should leave while he attends to some unfinished business. He then heads straight to Barracuda's hideout to confront him for ignoring his warning. Despite Barracuda's attempts to defend himself, Driver is in no mood to listen and decides to attack him. However, Lens Girl suddenly appears unharmed and praises Driver for his unique skills. She also opens a portal and invites him to meet someone special. At first, Driver refuses to meet anyone, but when the Money King emerges from the portal, he is surprised. It is revealed that the Money King ordered Barracuda to attack other vil zones and conquer them. When Driver learns this, he moves forward to attack the Money King without realizing his true power and skills. Meanwhile, Cassian continues to defeat other villains and receives a rare mana crystal in return, wasting no time in consuming it and waiting for another special skill to activate within him, Barracuda's Fang. The following day, Lee talks to Kim, asking about Naeun. Kim reveals that it was the villains of Northern Vil Zone who kidnapped Naeun and mentions that he, along with other villains from the Gadam district, destroyed the North before rescuing Naeun. Lee is shocked to hear this, as he believed Cassian was responsible. On the other hand, Cassian talks to Moros and asks him to tell him more about Jeff's death. Moros replies that he doesn't know much, but senses it might have something to do with the Sword of Annihilation. He states the only way to obtain it is to retrieve the Platinum Disc in the possession of the 4 monarchs. Cassian is determined to retrieve the disc to avenge Jeff's death. In the next scene, Yuri is working when her manager Vincent expresses gratitude for her help. Yuri shows him a photograph of Jeff, her lost friend. Vincent confirms Jeff was one of his best friends, and Yuri hands over the photograph to him. Meanwhile, Cassian forms a plan to retrieve the Platinum Disc from the monarchs, whom he considers more dangerous than the villains. His skill level has increased after consuming real mana, and Moros advises patience, but Cassian insists there's no time to waste. He must face the monarchs immediately. The scene shifts to Driver and Cassian approaching Black Ghost. The Black Ghost apologizes to Cassian for his earlier betrayal and asks to join his team. As they discuss the situation, Driver reveals that daily supplies to the Gadam district are about to be cut off, suspecting the Money King is behind it. Driver explains that the Money King is after a powerful weapon in the Gadam district, namely the black armor worn by the immortal villain. In the next scene, Director Kim, the subordinate of the Money King, visits another Vil zone called Namkan. He proposes to their seniors that they should follow his boss's orders to unify all the Vil zones. However, to his dismay, the head of the Vil zone, Mujin, refuses Director Kim's proposal and gift, wondering why the Money King is trying to do this. He believes Driver from the Gadam district also received the offer and rejected it immediately. Mujin instructs J-Lope to contact Gadam and find out the truth behind the Money King's intentions. Meanwhile, Cassian and Driver are at a secret location where the black armor is being kept. The Driver warns Cassian that the black armor can speak like a person and tells him to be careful. Cassian is surprised when the armor calls him and tells him that they can create havoc if combined together. However, when the armor states that it will control Cassian's movements and thoughts, he stops to think. To his surprise, the armor becomes shocked when Cassian starts moving on his own and asks who he is. Suddenly, Cassian finds himself transported to a secluded location where he encounters the real immortal warrior who once wore black armor. Warrior informs Cassian that during his peak, he was one of the most powerful villains destined to rule the world. However, Moros intervenes and wakes Cassian from his deep thoughts, warning him that the black armor had temporarily overpowered him. Cassian looks ahead and sees the black armor lying on the floor. Ignoring Moros's warning, Cassian picks it up, and the magic crystal's extraction begins. Later, Cassian emerges from the chamber and tells Driver to do whatever he wants with the armor. Driver is amazed to see that Cassian's points have increased significantly. Next, when Crow and Red Eye are practicing archery, Royal Garnet and his subordinates arrive to meet Driver. All of them sit for an emergency meeting and talk about the Money King's actual plan. Garnet informs Driver that one of the Money King's men visited Mujin and wants to talk to him. Driver wonders about the motivation for the meeting between Cassian and Mujin. Meanwhile, Cassian wonders about his findings from the legendary weapon, the black armor. He believes that extracting crystals from the weapon was a good decision as his skills have increased because of it. With new skills and power added to his body, Cassian feels ready to fight tough opponents and try out his newly acquired skills. At Lapis Branch, Kim is practicing hard while Lee is in a meeting discussing someone trying to manipulate different Vil zones. Dasan tells Kim that the one behind all this is the Money King, and Kim mentions that Cassian and Mujin can fight against him to protect the area from getting overpowered. Dasan asks Kim to find a case to intervene in the Vil zones and protect the citizens. Next, Black Hand is sitting alone, wondering how to get stronger. Crush and Double Blade arrive and tease him for having a crush on Crow. Right then, tension rises as J-Rob and Marsh, two A-ranked villains from the Namkang district, arrive with their leader, Mujin. Black Hand, Crush, and Double Blade are surprised and agitated at the unexpected visit. In a hostile tone, J-Rob taunts them and belittles their abilities, but his condescending attitude backfires when Black Hand lunges forward to attack him. However, J-Rob proves to be a formidable opponent, quickly stopping Black Hand's attack and even breaking his joint with ease. Press and Double Blade are also subdued by Marsh's marshmallow bomb. As the situation escalates, Driver, Crow, and Cassian arrive to put an end to the brawl. When Mujin sees Cassian, he mocks him and challenges him to a fight. Cassian, known for his stoic nature, challenges Mujin to prove his worth. J-Rob tries to intervene, but Cassian's swift punch sends him flying, warning anyone who would dare challenge him. With the challenge accepted, tension reaches new heights as Cassian and Mujin face off, each determined to come out on top. The crowd watches with bated breath as the two powerful villains size each other up. It's a battle that will test not only their physical strength, but also their strategic and tactical abilities. Despite Moros's warning, Cassian ignores his caution and rushes to attack Mujin. Eugene readies his flying sword slash technique, but surprisingly, Cassian manages to dodge it. Cassian fails to find an open angle and lands a powerful punch on Mujin. He then decides to use his shadow knives and chain knives skills to face Mujin head-on. The spectators, including Driver and Crow, are surprised to see Cassian's hidden skills. Moros suggests that Cassian provokes Mujin to see his real ability, but when Cassian attacks, Driver tries to intervene and stop the fight, only to be refused by both fighters. Cassian sticks to the plan and provokes Mujin, asking him to act like a true villain and fight like a madman. His words work, and Mujin activates his special power, the Annihilation's wild energy, with immense power coursing through him. Mujin takes out his sword, boasting that he can cut through anything. Cassian learns that Mujin also possesses another special power that allows him to reinforce his injured body parts in no time. Despite this knowledge, Cassian attacks Mujin continuously with his shadow knife skill, irritating him. When Cassian manages to stop one of Mujin's spells, the latter apologizes for doubting his ability to guard Gadam and be its boss. However, to everyone's surprise, Mujin declares that he will now attack Cassian with an even more powerful dragon tooth sword technique and challenges him to dodge if he can. The stage is set for an intense and gripping fight between the two skilled fighters. Cassian manages to dodge Mujin's powerful dragon tooth sword attack, showcasing his incredible agility and reflexes. He emerges from the attack with no injuries, and his shadow armor flexes and responds to the impact. Mujin is surprised by Cassian's powerful defense armor and wonders how he obtained it. Emboldened by his successful defense, Cassian challenges Mujin to face his attack, but before he can do so, Driver intervenes and urges both fighters to stop. Moros echoes the sentiment and Cassian agrees to halt the fight. Driver turns to have a conversation with Mujin and his people, but to his surprise, they start walking away without a word. Driver realizes that they had no intention of fighting, and it was all just a test to assess Cassian's abilities. After the intense fight with Mujin, Cassian and Driver gather with the rest of the group for a meeting to discuss the sudden return of Mujin and his subordinates. The group speculates the possible reasons for their return and their motives for provoking a fight with Cassian. During the discussion, Driver introduces Garnet, an outer from an organization called Winterbell. Cassian is curious about this organization, and Garnet explains that it is dedicated to the survival of villains and their existence. She also mentions that Winterbell works to protect villains from the influence of the Seven Saints and to modernize their attacks. When Cassian asks if they manufacture DSP, Garnet confirms it. Meanwhile, at Boksun, J-Rob puts ice on his swollen neck while discussing Cassian's power and skills with Mujin. Surprisingly, Mujin takes off her mask and reveals that she is a female character. Back at Gdam, Cassian questions Driver about his association with Winterbell. Driver denies being a part of the organization and says that he only has some business-related relations with them. Upon further inquiry, Driver reveals that Mujin is one of the 7 monarchs that make up Winterbell, but she is still to pass some tests to become a monarch. The group is shocked to hear this and wonders what kind of test she has to pass to earn that position. In the hospital room, Kim visits Nayune and advises her to take some rest, but she insists on going to a nearby restaurant to have spicy rice cakes. When Kim asks her if she remembers being kidnapped, Nayune is surprised to find out that she has no recollection of the incident. In another scene, Cassian and Moros discuss the 7 monarchs and come up with a plan to help Mujin pass all the required tests and become a monarch. They believe that by doing so, Money King will not be able to take over all the Ville zones and establish a monopoly. Meanwhile, Mujin attends a meeting with other villains from her district and devises a strategy to pass a final test and save her Ville zone from being encroached by Money King. While discussing the last coffin test, she realizes the need for Cassian's help, as he is the only one with shadow skills and can move between spaces freely. Mujin contemplates seeking Cassian's assistance, but wonders if he will accept her proposal. At the same time, Moros is contemplating his own plans to join Mujin and become a monarch himself. Moros is a former member of the 7 monarchs who was banished due to his extreme violent behavior. Cassian becomes suspicious of Moros's intentions and warns him about the consequences of his evil plans. Meanwhile, Blackhand Crush and Double Blade attempt to meet with Cassian in person, but are blocked by Black Ghost. Black Ghost belittles them and tells them that they are not skilled enough to meet with Cassian. Cassian arrives on the scene and hears their request to become stronger. Recognizing an opportunity to strengthen his allies against Money King, Cassian assigns them a week-long regimen of push-ups, chin-ups, and squats. Cassian also tasks Black Ghost with keeping an eye on them. Suddenly, Driver arrives and urgently takes Cassian to a meeting room. There, Driver reveals that Mujin is interested in working with Cassian and hands him information about the Platinum Disc. Cassian demands more information about the disc before agreeing to work with Mujin. Cassian and Moros then have a conversation about Mujin's proposal. Cassian is initially skeptical, but decides to help Mujin pass her tests and become a monarch. The next day, Cassian observes the intense training of his group and realizes that dedication and persistence can lead to great strength and success in life. He contemplates making the entire goddamn district stronger and self-sufficient through their training. As Cassian ponders his plans, he notices someone watching him from a nearby window. The stranger beckons him upstairs. He provokes the stranger by calling them down instead. When Cassian meets him, he realizes that the man is Blinding Darkness, a vassal who works for Winterbell. Blinding Darkness speaks rudely, enraging Cassian and provoking him into a confrontation. It is revealed that Blinding Darkness has gathered information about Cassian when he visited a pub in the Ville Zone. The boss of Gdam Ville Zone becomes angry with Blinding Darkness's words and attacks him. Blinding Darkness reveals that she possesses the attribute of light, which is the opposite of Cassian's shadow attribute. Cassian, however, doesn't care and delivers a powerful blow, knocking Blinding Darkness to the ground. But to his surprise, she reveals herself as an S-rank villain and remains uninjured. Cassian prepares for another attack, but Blinding Darkness is defeated when Cassian blocks all of her moves. The group of villains, including Driver, Crow, Cassian, and Blinding Darkness, holds a meeting to guess why Blinding Darkness attacked Cassian. After some hesitation, Blinding Darkness reveals that she does not want Mujin to become a monarch, because she fears that the dangerous Monarch Red Death peony will come after her. Blinding Darkness also mentions that there is no way to avoid Money King and Peony before becoming a monarch. She reveals that Mujin will be the first to attack Red Death. Driver explains this is because of revenge as her father was killed by Red Dead. After listening to everything, Cassian decides to help Mujin become the monarch. He also claims he will make all 4 evil monarchs kneel in front of him. Meanwhile, Uchan is seen talking to the psyker trainee about the recent events. Uchan then sees Nayun as being followed by someone. The stalker ran away in fear. At the Namkangville zone, Mujin is seen waiting desperately for revenge. Mujin makes her way to Gadam district. Meanwhile, a psyker apprentice is seen being interviewed. He appears to be a big name in the psykers. In the middle of the interview, he gets a call from another psyker. It appears Nayun's stalker is the one who called. The stalker made false accusations about Uchan and said he called them fake. This made the apprentice psyker furious. Cassian is seen heading toward a macaron shop after Driver suggested it. He bought all the Earl Grey macarons. Just then, another customer came asking for them. She asked Cassian if she can have them as it is important. Cassian gave them to her and she gave back half of them. Moros tells Cassian later that the woman at the macaron shop was Mujin. Cassian already knew which surprised Moros. Next, we see Mujin. Blinding Darkness, Driver, and Cassian gathered at the crow's sealed coffin. Cassian is prepared to bring the key out and he enters inside. He lights the orbs inside with his mana and proceeds ahead. Moros suddenly tells him to stop and they find a secret hidden plan. As they enter, Moros is shocked to see the 3-legged crow's tomb. He claims the thing that turned Mujin's clan evil is sealed inside there. Yuri is seen looking at the president of Lampus who visited the restaurant she worked at. Back in the coffin, Cassian sees a sword beside a pot. He decides to take it out. A barrier appears in front of him. Just as he broke the barrier, several crows emerged shouting die and die. He decided to free them of their pain by burning them up. He successfully then extracts a true stone from the pot. It was a bloodstone and was said to have dangerous effects. He keeps it to consume at a later date. He then takes out the sword and rushes back. Blinding Darkness was worried Cassian had failed, however, Driver and Mujin had complete faith in him. He came rushing back. Mujin said the sword was known as the White Tiger Sword. It disappeared a long time ago and is a twin blade. Mujin claims she is only halfway there. She needs to prove her worth now. As he went inside the coffin, she remembered when her father died. She promised to prove her worth by becoming the Villezone boss. She is now more determined than ever. After that, she now makes her way to France. Meanwhile, in the Xinhua district, the ancient Blue Viper plans something sinister. The Money King is then interested in Cassian after looking at his report. He plans on bringing him to his side. He also thinks the ancient Blue Viper will soon plot something against Mujin. Meanwhile, Cassian checks up on the training of the villains. He asks them to spar with him, but takes them out instantly. Black Ghost and the other villains are all determined to be stronger. Meanwhile, in the Xinhua district, Mad Pin, an A-rank villain, and the ancient Blue Viper are seen partnering up to take down Mujin.
Hey viewers, subscribe for more interesting manhwa, manga, and webtoon recaps.